There are people who, even on YouTube Kids, have come across something, their kid has come across something after scrolling and watching videos, something that is inappropriate, not quite right, not quite what you want your child to see. So again, not 100% foolproof. So, the monitoring has to be done by us. Easier said than done. The majority of you work, right? And those who don't go to a traditional job, if you're at home working from home or you're looking out after the home, you're not sitting with your child all the time, right? And I know this, and it's really hard. And it's one of the reasons why we parents have to band together, because there is inappropriate content that it might not even be seen by your child, but when they go into the classroom and then they're outside and they're hanging out with their friends in the courtyard, or waiting in the line for lunch or whatever, they're talking about what their experiences are. And so there might be many children who've come across something inappropriate and they talk about it. And sometimes you might have a child who feels left out and, oh, I don't know about this. And they might go looking for it. Or, I don't know about this, send me a clip. Can I see the clip? And the kid shows them. You know what I mean? Like, it can happen, right? Now, I'm not blaming the parents here, right? Because at the end of the day, this thing, social media, online videos, scrolling, internet, has just come along and sideswept us. Absolutely knocked us off our feet, right? The pandemic hit 5+ years ago. What was it, March 2020 when it hit Jamaica. And all of a sudden everybody went online globally. And, those kids were suddenly thrown into a situation where they had no friends. This was their way to communicate and socialize and sort of have company a little bit, because the parents, even if they could no longer go to their job was online. So this has been 5 years of that. Now, through that, it has facilitated education when we couldn't go to school. It's facilitated some wonderful things, really wonderful things. But it's also facilitated the bad eggs, the bad characters. And, how do you stop your kid? How do you truly monitor your kid? You gotta have things in place to at least help. Like I said, the settings are a good way forward. Education. Explain to the kids, talk about the difficult things. If you hear about another kid going through something, don't turn and say to your kid, or not say to her, don't turn around and be like, well, that's never going to happen to my kid, or my child is too young for me to talk about this topic. Find a way that's appropriate to talk about the topic to your child. All right. I have seen firsthand, luckily not in my house, right? But every day it stresses me out. I have anxiety over it. What I was saying was that I've seen firsthand, incidences of when children are exposed to very inappropriate content. They didn't necessarily go looking for it. And what it has done, it's also changed their language. So if a child is watching something quite innocently and then they come across a weird kind of pedophilia porn, which by the way they do, right? It might normalize the way they speak about younger children in a sexual way, right? It's not normal for teenagers to look at very young kids and talk about them in a sexual way, or talk about them having some kind of sexual potential. That is not normal, right? But it can happen, and it has happened, right? And it's a horrifying thought. And maybe the instinct would be to punish these kids who are doing this or saying these things, but they're young themselves. I think the way forward is to is to talk to them and educate them and try and get to the bottom of why a child might be coming out with inappropriate comments or, showing inappropriate content or behaving inappropriately. There's a backstory to this. And it's not always the so-called home life, right? There was a time, like back in my day, if that was happening, the assumption was they were learning it at home, right? Or an incident had happened to them, like face to face, right? But now that is not necessarily the case. It is simply, or could be simply, that they've been exposed to it online. So we need to have this conversation. We need to be open about it. We need to be open about our fears. We need to talk to each other. We need to ask each other's advice. I'm learning all the time. All the time. I'm always doing research, always looking out for videos.